Welcome to I Have a Testimony. I'm your host, Brother Willie Muhammad.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
During this month, we will be interviewing several of the Nation of Islam's young stars. Our first guest of this series is our sister Nzinga Muhammad. She's a member of the Rochester, New York study group. She's a visual artist, a senior in college, and a vigilant defender of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam on social media as part of the Twitter army. As we discussed, during this month's highlight, we really want you all to tune in and pay attention to who we have as guests. Our sister during last year's Savior's Day discussed during the NOI Youth Retreat how she defends the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
As everyone has said before, it's of course striving to be an example on and offline. I know Sister Medina had mentioned before me being on campus, striving to bring Islam to campus. That's specifically and particularly a Methodist affiliated school. So Islam is not necessarily something that many of the girls are readily exposed to. I was literally the first introduction to a Muslim woman, even though some of them have had, Muslim uncles, Muslim brothers, their grandfather, joined the mosque, their uncle converted when he was in prison, something. But in terms of a Muslim woman at an all-women's HBCU, that was something completely different to them. So defending Farrakhan is also dispelling the myth that women aren't in the nation. It's also dispelling the myth, in me showing up, dispelling the myth that, women in Islam can't do anything.
Thank you. Welcome, my sister. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. I like to get right down to the actual interview. So, you mentioned that you were in our pre-questions that we asked you that you were born in the Nation of Islam and you made the decision to become a registered member at the age of 17. So what made you decide to become a registered member?
That's a big question. I think oftentimes nation babies, as we're called, it's like a clock on us. Your parents, they expect you to join immediately once you turn a certain age. For me, I wanted to make sure that but the thing that I grew up with and the thing that I've been comfortable with was actually for me. I was registered literally on Father's Day. And my father, of course, he was ecstatic, like that was his Father's Day gift, but it wasn't for my father. And I wanted to make sure that this wasn't for anyone else but me. I grew up with it. Just because you grow up with something, and those of us in the nation, even my parents, they know for sure, just because you grew up with something doesn't mean it's necessarily true. But for me, I had to find out if this was absolutely true and if it was for me, not for anybody else. And it is.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. I know that was definitely a great Father's Day gift for your father. And I even know your mother was happy as well. And my next question, this is a two-part question. First, what advice would you give to parents of children born in a nation who are conscious, but the children do not appear to have a real interest in becoming a registered member at this time?
Be patient. Really be patient. I was the first of my immediate family to get registered. So I was before my brother, who was also registered. So just because one child might be first and the other one doesn't mean that they're going to be a disbeliever. Doesn't mean they're going to turn hypocrite or anything. No, only Allah can make a believer. You can't make your child do anything. So just be patient with them and just keep showing up and keep making this thing that we call Islam fun. It's a lifestyle. It's fun. It's cool. It's not lame. It's not something that we just put up on a high shelf and forget about it. This is a lifestyle. So we continue to live the lifestyle and just be patient with your child, because we don't all grow at the same rate.
Beautiful. And the second part of that question is, you shared just now talking about the parents. So now, what advice would you give to teenage Muslims who are wrestling with the decision to become registered or not?
Be patient with yourself. Patience is really the key here, because you can't rush a lifestyle you're adopting and you're taking and you're making it your really life's work, your mission. Really sit with yourself and think back to all the things that you've been taught and try to see, is this true or not? Is this what helped me? I look back at a lecture that the minister did in Mississippi. I want to say it was 1993. And that was right before the Great Flood in Mississippi. And that was when the police had killed one of the believers' sons. And so the minister came down to the lecture, and he said that God's wrath would come down on Mississippi. And then it started raining. And so that turned into the Great Flood of Mississippi in 1993. So when I saw that and matched up, I said, okay, he's definitely divine. He's definitely of God. So just finding out for yourself, research for yourself, look up, see if it adds up. And if it doesn't add up, then leave it alone.
It's interesting. You mentioned two things in responding to those questions. You mentioned patience, and you talked about the research that you did for yourself. And I want to just dig deeper into some of those. Why do you feel like patience is so key, especially from the standpoint of a parent and also from the teenager?
Because Allah didn't create himself in one day. He didn't do anything in one day. It took several days, years, and we still haven't reached the level of perfection yet. So I would say being patient is key if you're going to talk about something that is an evolutionary process to perfection. Patience is something that, of course, I don't have, not fully completely, but it's still necessary and vital and important when you're making a big decision. And that decision could very much well save your life. And if you're a nation baby, you've seen the proof in your parents. You've seen the proof. And if you see maybe old photos or videos of what your parents were, then you'll see how they are now. And if there's a difference in their lives, then something happened. But it didn't happen overnight. They thought about it, they researched, they talked to people, then they accepted. They might have accepted the same day they heard the lecture, but they still had a process in class, which took time and patience. So being patient is key, I would say, because it's a very important thing.
And you talked about how, I'm quite sure, prior to you seeing that lecture that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did when he spoke in the state of Louisiana, and I know prior to that you saw numerous lectures, but what was it? What was it about that lecture that really drove you home? Like you was like, I got to do this.
Because everything matched up. Everything made sense. And it was what was being said was also prophecies to me. And I know what the scripture says. If a man says something that doesn't happen, then he's not a prophet. You can leave that alone. You don't have to worry about that because it's not true. He's a fool. Don't listen to it. But if it comes true, then you're obligated to listen and go wherever he says go. So that's what really helped me in confirming it through scripture also, and saying if it matches up, and it did, and it does, and it always has.
Thank you. Now, you're currently a senior at Bennett College, right? Which is an all-women, right? Graduate?
No, rising senior.
Rising senior, right? Which is an all-women's college. What influenced your decision to attend that particular HBCU comparison to all of the others that are out there?
One, the financial package. That's the first and foremost. I'm not gonna lie. That's the first and foremost, the financial of it all. But also, it's a school for Black women, and Black women in history has always been my passion. This is a school that is so rich in history, and it is so small too. And me coming from a homeschool background, I would jump from that small setting to a huge setting. I felt like I couldn't really catch up. But if I just go from this small setting of homeschool to a larger but still small setting, then I can make that transition a little bit easier.
Wow. And it's interesting. I think about my first year of college was very challenging. And I came from a public school system to a university atmosphere. So you mentioned about how you came from a homeschool to the actual university setting. So how was that transition? What were some of the things that you did to just adapt to that new environment?
Well, for one, my mom, she put me in some AP courses, so that college level readiness. And being homeschool is much more tailor-made for your child, and it's much more personalized. You don't have to put them on the same curriculum as what they want to do, and you don't always have to baby them either. My mom has a thing, and really a lot of people in the nation who homeschool their children. If your 3-year-old, wants to learn algebra, why not? Anything really. There's no, even though you have to have grades and you have to have levels in the curriculum, but there's no limit. So because of that, my mother really encouraged us to keep learning and keep going. And by the time I got into school, I was really pretty much ahead, I felt like, in certain subjects, especially when it came to history. History class at home was always rich, and always articles and research, and go on the final call for this and go look up that. So I was already used to that. So going to a college atmosphere, it was much easier for me.
And how has it, just that experience, just being a Black woman, to be able to be in that environment with other Black women? How is the campus and even the curriculum there empowering to you as a woman?
It was so refreshing, really, and it felt safe. I didn't necessarily have to worry about men on campus like that. They exist, especially because we're across the street from A&T, North Carolina A&T. So yeah, so I mean, they're present, but they're not in your face. So that helped. But also Bennett College, the curriculum in itself always centered Black women in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So if we were learning about the Civil Rights era, then we also had to learn about how Bennett College for women was essential in the Greensboro sit-ins in the 60s. We also had to look at how Bennett and Black women were really on the front lines in the 30s, protesting and boycotting theaters who were not portraying Black people in a positive light. If we were learning about anything else, we always centered it back around Black women. If it was a biology class, okay, well, who's Henrietta Lacks? It's always recentering and re-empowering us in everything that we do. And that's something that I'm used to being homeschooled, also centering everything back to the common root, which is the teachings.
Beautiful, beautiful. We thank you for those responses. Our time is going by so fast that we're approaching our first break. So we're going to pause for some announcements from our sponsors, and we'll be back with our Sister Nzinga Muhammad. Thank you.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people, and upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Call now, 502-219-4848.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
The hashtag Bank Black social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. the movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
This past May marked the 64th year of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the ministry. Recently, Brother Abdul Qiyam Muhammad appeared with Brother Dimitri, Brother Nuri, and Brother Carlos to highlight this accomplishment.
I think it's of utmost importance because not only does it mark him being declared a minister by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and has now continued to be known as the minister, but it also, for me, marks 64 years of him doing something that's unprecedented by somebody who has reached such a pinnacle in this world's life and still going up. The minister has 64 plus years of elevating his teacher. Not one time has he mounted a rostrum, been on a radio show, written an article, visited a church or a school in these 64 plus years. Has he not let the people know who is his teacher and the one that has also made him? So I believe that it's very important that we talk about this beautiful man, because he's a wonderful example of the power and the uniqueness of elevating your teacher, which in truth elevates you.
And we're back, and we're here with our sister Nzinga Muhammad. I'll go into our next question. In the opening clip, you spoke about how for many on the campus, you were their first introduction to a Muslim woman for many of them. Can you share with us what some of those experiences were like for them to meet you and to ask you questions and things of that nature?
A lot of invasive questions, honestly. Those being, did your father make you wear that, or do you have to wear that? But a lot of those questions just came out of ignorance, honestly, because if you're a first introduction to something, they're gonna ask questions that you might not like, but that's their experience. I've been asked if I'm married, if I got married young. I got asked about Muslim women. Can we do things? Is it true that we can't ride in a car with men? Is it true that we can't walk anywhere without a man and I'm talking to them by myself? Is it true that you can do this or that? It was these questions that, okay, you got it from somewhere, and you got these things from some narrative, and you all have the same narrative, and we just met each other. So to me, I saw it as, now, okay, I have to do something, and that do something means to show up and represent as best as I can. And a lot of it was just curiosity too, because they wanted to be part of it. They just didn't know if they had a place in it. And that's when I was like, okay, I have to introduce them, but not in a way that is down their throat, because that's what they're used to, the narrative being about us. That if I join this thing, then I'm gonna be forced to do something I don't want to do. And that's not attractive. So in inviting them, I had to just show up where, not like this every day, but wearing a scarf. And that was a conversation in itself. And the question that they had slowly turned into, where's your mosque? And it went from, are you forced to wear that, to, well, do I have to wear this when I go to the mosque with you? So I would say that first introduction to Islam as a Muslim woman really, I want to say, stuck with a lot of them.
Wow. And I'm quite sure, how has having those type of interactions with other college students, how has it benefited you as a Muslim personally, as it relates to your studies, your ability to communicate, and even convey a certain point of perspective to someone else outside of our faith?
I felt like I was really doing something constructive and productive as it relates to the mission. I felt like I was doing something that was beneficial, not just for me, but for all the people around me. I didn't just want to, feel like have my ego boosted up. Yeah, introduce you to Islam. No, I wanted them to actually have a full grasp of what this thing is and what it's not. And I feel like for me, it just helped. And I was just so thankful to Allah that I was able to be in a position to where they felt comfortable with the idea of Islam itself and comfortable with talking to a Muslim woman, a young Muslim woman who is their age and looks like them and talks like them and eats not the same things, but similarly to them. And that it just I felt like I was normalizing my lifestyle and my faith in a space that it was not normal, at least for them. And I feel just blessed and grateful to be in that position.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, also in preparing for this interview, I found out that you are a visual artist, right? So, and your artwork can also be purchased online. When did your interest in such begin? And then what do you hope to accomplish with your art?
So I began painting. Well, first, I've always been an artist. I've always, was drawing, illustrating. I used to illustrate my own little books and staple construction paper together and illustrate them. So I was always doing that in drawing. I didn't take drawing seriously until I was 13, and I took painting seriously when I was 16 because I had a job with the city and we had to paint murals for recreation centers. So I learned on the job how to paint, and my instructors and supervisors were Black women. And so they helped me and really just pushed me to find my style in art and also be comfortable with different mediums, whether that's acrylic, whether that's oil, or whether that's spray paint. And so that translated into me really painting, really painting and being comfortable with that and eventually selling it. And I think what I want people to see a lot, I do paint a lot of Black women, especially in bright colors and especially in pastel colors. And a lot of times it's dark-skinned women. And the reason for that is because there's this myth and idea that Black women can't be soft, that Black women can't be feminine, that Black women can't be vulnerable. And so these are bright colors, they're soft colors, they're pastel colors, because Black women should be allowed and able to do those things and be those things. So I wanted to be a positive light when looking at images of our people.
And thank you for that response. And also I found out that you have chosen was interdisciplinary studies, right? With a history concentration, which is one of my favorite. I majored in history as well, and you're minoring in English. So why did you choose those particular courses, and what are you planning on using them to do?
Inshallah, I do want to go to grad school eventually and get my master's in history. But for Bennett, there was no history major necessarily, biology, math. There was no history major. It was interdisciplinary studies. And then you create your own major within that. So I did history. And a lot of my historical work has been dealing with Black people, whether that's in religion, in colonial era, Black women in the colonial era. And so I took really women's studies and also history as it pertains to Black history and made that my own major. And
wow.
So.
And this is and you were mentioning a lot, and I love the way that how Bennett not only does it connects you all to our history, but it shows what was Bennett's role during the civil rights, but also Black women, right? And from your perspective as a historian, what would you say has been and is the significance of the Black woman to the overall sojourn of Black people in America from the time we got off the ships until even right up until now?
That's a whole, that's a big question. That's the whole question, because you got to think 400 years of this thing, this system that we had to deal with. It's a lot, because we had to have our humanity taken away as Black people, but also as women. There were certain things and methods that were used against us, particularly because we were women, and we had to stay strong in that. You know, being wet nurses, being raped, having all these things done to us, and still having to be intact, and still have to work all the time. I think that Black women have really sacrificed so much and have been through so much and continue to go through so much, and still there's this resistance, and we're still here. A lot of these things, a lot of these laws created against Black women, particularly, for instance, during the slavery era, where if you're a slave, your child's a slave. And so these targeted attacks towards Black women during slavery were very apparent, but also just for us to still be here just shows that somebody survived. Like, we're living proof of people who survived through that Middle Passage, survived through the breaking process in the Caribbean, survived through all of these things, and we're still here. So I think Black women deserve nothing but roses, a break also, and deserve a chance to be ourselves and be free, because for so long we've had to be tough, and we had to be resilient, and we had to be strong, and we had to be all these things. I think that Black women really just deserve the world for what, not even for what we've been through, what we continue to go through, and because we are, as the minister has said, the second self of God himself. And if us being here isn't proof of that, then I don't know what is.
Wow. Beautiful. And you see, in that response, you brought up another question in my mind, but I can't ask it right now. We'll do it later after the break. So we're at our next break, and we're going to pause to hear from our public, from our sponsors, and we'll be back with our Sister Nzinga Muhammad. Thank you.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Willie Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
The participants and organizers were treated with a surprise appearance by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan during last year's NOI Youth Retreat. He shared some valuable guidance with them, and his words can be viewed online.
But she has shined the light of her concern on our youth, in particular, the future of our nation, the youth of the Nation of Islam. So when she asked through Sister Amina, would I come and kind of close out things, man, I was rushing, trying to get myself ready so I could come and meet the giants.
So dear sister, you were a part of that it was a Zoom, I believe it was, and you were present when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan appeared. How did that make you feel, and what do you think about what he shared with you all during that evening?
Oh, I was scared. I didn't know. First I thought someone was playing, because I was like, what do you mean he's here? Like, he's in the Zoom? What do you mean? So I went through the participants and I said, oh, he's here. So I was like, did he hear me? Did he hear what I said? Did I say everything okay? Am I okay? Do I look okay? And that was just such a shock for everybody. But it was so needed too, because what it did was it humanized him for me. It made him coming to Zoom to speak to us, and he's pointing out different people saying, oh, I like your tie, I like your uniform, I like this, he was really speaking to us, and he was talking to us as if we were regular human beings like him. It showed that, sometimes we get lost in the divinity of him, and we don't see him as a human being who's accessible, who is reachable, who can talk to us, and he is all of that. And it really showed he is all of that. What he shared with us too, it was like he was speaking to me. And the way Zoom is set up, once you have the speaker's view, he's looking directly in the camera, and so you're like, oh, he's talking to me. But what he was saying, it hit so deeply for me, because it was like a personal message, like Allah was speaking to me through him, and he always does. But it just showed that he really has a divine connection to Allah. And if he comes in a room and he speaks, it's as if he knows exactly what you're going through, and he speaks to that concern. And he said it in a way, it was like, so did I have a discussion with you yesterday? Were we talking last week? Because everything that you're saying adds up to my life. And it was so personal, and it was just a beautiful experience overall.
Beautiful. Thank you. And also, prior to this virtual appearance some years ago, you had the opportunity to personally meet the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and Mother Khadijah. It looks like it was at one of the national trainings. So can you share with us how this moment came about and the impact that it has had on you?
Ooh. So again, I was scared. So we were, during that time, it was right after there was the women's defense training. And so we were waiting for the larger group to learn a few moves. And while that was going on, one of my friend's sister, Kiyama, she's from Charlotte, she was like, oh, Nzinga, do you want to take a picture with the minister? I'm like, what do you mean take a picture with the minister? You can't just walk up and just ask for a picture with the minister. Like, are you crazy? So she's like, no, it's fine, come on. So she's pulling my hand, and I'm like, Kiyama, no, like, we're not going up there. You can't just do that. Now, her family is closer to the minister. They've done details and everything for him. I have not. So I was like, no, I'm not going up there. I can't do that. She's like, why not? Why not? It's just the minister. I'm looking at her like, you're right. It is the minister. We're not going up there. But she was like, I already just took a picture with him. I'm like, so you're just walking up to people taking pictures? You can't do that. But in her mind, to my point, she humanized him already. I didn't. I was thinking, okay, you can't touch him. You can't look. You can't. But she was like, let's just take a picture. She did. She humanized him to make him accessible. And I'm just looking like, I'm not doing that. So with that in mind, I finally get to a spot where, it's kind of like, so can I go now? Can I not go now? I'm kind of just sitting there waiting, and he's looking dead at me. And I'm just like, oh God, he can read my mind. I have to clear my head. What's going on? And I just freeze up while waiting. And so people kind of like part and split like the Red Sea. And now it's just like a straight shot to him and Mother Khadijah. And I'm just, I'm trying to avoid eye contact. I'm like, what's going on? So one of my friends, Brother Jair, he was doing his detail that day. So he's looking at me and I'm like, help. So he's like, just come on, it's okay now. So he gives me the go ahead. And so I go to him and I almost break down. And I tried to keep it together, but I don't know. I'm trying to remember what I said. All I can remember what I said was thank you. Mm-hmm. And I kept saying that over and over and over again. And I said that to Mother. I don't know how many times I said that to her. I just kept saying thank you. And then after I gave my gratitude a million times, I finally told him my name. Where Moss comes from. And he tried to say it perfectly. He actually got it right on the first time. When I said my name is Mr. Nzinga from Rochester, New York, he said Nzinga. I said yes. He was like, okay, beautiful name. And so after that, I'm kind of just stuck there frozen. They're looking at me and I'm like, can I take a picture? He's like, no, of course. So, I kneel down. I try not to squish Mother Khadija's foot because it's right there. I'm trying to squeeze myself in. And I take a picture and I just thank him. Like all I can say is thank you. And my mind kind of went blank. And by the time I get away from, my hands are shaking and everything. By the way, his hands are really soft. I don't know what type of lotion to use, but his hands are really soft. And so I walk away and Chiama is sitting there. She's like, good job. I'm like, what in the world? So I go to my friend Sabbath. And I'm like, Sabbath, I met him. I just met him. And I'm in her arms. I'm crying. She's like, oh, praise you to Allah. She's so calm. I'm freaking out. I leave. I call my dad. I'm like, I just met him. He's like, what happened? So that was a whole situation. And I was freaking out of my mind. And when I finally went back, he spoke to everyone at the training. And once again, just speaking to my life. And that was just a crazy experience. And I was freaking out, but I'm alive, so it's okay.
Man. Now, you, praise be to Allah. Thank you for sharing that with us. You talked about how, like, you know, the women's studies and things like that. How has what you're learning about the contribution and the significance of women, you know, what you're from the history standpoint, like, how has that also enhanced what you will learn from what the Most High Muhammad says about the value of the woman? Or how do those two mesh together and enhance your view of the woman? Basically,
absolutely. You know, once you make a statement, first of all, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he shook the whole world of theology when he said that the black man is God. That's the first thing he shook up. But what he also did, he busted up the myth of the origin of woman also, when he said that, you know, the woman is the second son of God, Allah's twin. So before it was, we came from men. We came from the rib of Adam. Now here is someone saying, actually, no, you're Allah's second self. So that's a huge gap. That's a very big gap from somebody's rib to the originator created you before he created the sun. That's a very big gap. So in my studies, everything that I'm looking at and all the contributions of Black women and all the things that we've done, all the things that we survived, we can't come from a rib. That doesn't add up, because people who have done these extraordinary things, who led revolutions and who fought in wars, and people who sacrificed and did all these amazing things, were the first this and the first that, and ruled kingdoms, we couldn't have come from a rib. It doesn't add up. There had to be a equally divine essence within us to do all these amazing things, but it had to take someone who was not divine to make us forget, and to make all of that wash away, and to create systems of oppression against this group of people in particular, who are literally God's twin.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that, I like the way that you said that, and that is you great response, definitely great response. So, you know, we talked about how you are one of the defenders of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on social media, and I check it out. You're going and you're defending him in our way. Can you give some examples of one of the attacks that you might find that you have defended the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan against, and how did you go about defending him?
The most recent that I can think of was during the homegoing of DMX. And so with that, the minister spoke beautifully, as he does, but he gave a lot of course, Christian references, which is no stranger to me, but it was strange to a lot of people who never heard him before, or who have heard of him but never heard him. And so they were saying that he speaks like a preacher, and I never knew he quoted Jesus like that before. And I'm thinking, there's no way you didn't know that he talks about Jesus. And that was just one of the things that I even remember being at school. People asked me, so you believe in Jesus, right? And I was like, yeah, I believe in Jesus. But people don't know that for real. They really don't understand that and fully grasp that, because to them, really, in truth, Jewish people have more connection to Jesus than Muslims, simply because of a one, land, but also language. So they feel like they're more connected to them, and plus they read the Bible. Jesus was Jewish, so Jews are more connected to Jesus than Muslims. So we're the bad guy, when the whole time he's one of our biggest champions. So we have a duty, really, to make the world know that, yeah, that's our man too. And oftentimes, and we say, a good Muslim is a good Christian, and we prove that. So the minister, him speaking about Jesus was nothing new. It's just part of his ministry, and it's part of all of our ministry. So what I did was I made a thread on Twitter, and I created a thread, and it was just a list of all the times he spoke about Jesus. Not all the times, but some key points in which he's really dealing with in the same cadence and also in the same tone and the same spirit as he did at that funeral.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we're coming up on our next break, and I see your mother and your father in the comments. They're so proud of you. Brother Abdul Qiyam too, and I told him I wanted to interview you. He's like, definitely, definitely. And I can tell that you really study, sister, and continue to keep up with that, in addition to what you're learning on the college campus. So we're coming up on our last break, and we'll be back to finish this beautiful interview with our sister Nzinga Muhammad.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Classes begin September 1st. To enroll, visit AsiaticMinds.com. Greetings from National Network View. This week's final call cover story headline reads, "The battle in the sky is near." For 90 years, the Nation of Islam was mocked and ridiculed for its teachings on the mother plane and its aim and purpose. Now the government admits these UFOs are real, vindicating what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has warned of and prophesied. This FCM Volume Number 35 edition middle page article is a message by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan entitled "The Will, the Great Mother Plane, the Power of the Will to Destroy." To read more, subscribe to FinalCallDigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the NNVNews.com Final Call Cover Report.
He anointed our head with oil till our cup runneth over. He who, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, that is he.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.
During one of our previous shows here on NNV, we had the opportunity to interview jazz violinist Michael Ward. He shared with us how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan helped he and his family during the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina.
Something. And also while we were actually there, you talked about how, you know, you're from the city of New Orleans and you experienced the unfortunate natural disaster of Hurricane Katrina, but you shared with me something that I had no idea about, how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, his offer of kindness to you. Can you talk about that?
Well, you know, my family and I we were displaced like everybody else. And he said, Mike, you and your family come up here if you want. I was like, Minister, I need to be close to New Orleans. You know, I got to be close to New Orleans, you know, see what's going on. And so I went to Houston. He said, don't do nothing till you call me. And he took, you know, he helped me out. He gave me help for me get an apartment in Houston for 6 months. He paid for it. And therefore I was able to recover. And, you know, I was so deeply and grateful for him for being so kind and offering that. He didn't have to do that.
We're back with our sister Nzinga Muhammad. And I'll ask you this question. You know, the purpose of this show is based upon the scripture in the book of Revelation, where it says that the dragon or Satan was defeated by the blood of the Lamb and the power of their testimony. And so we get people to come on to give their testimony about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. If you were asked to testify before the world of 3 qualities of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what would those 3 qualities be that you would testify of, and why those?
Only 3. Only 3. One, I would say he's merciful. He is patient, and he's very motherly. I would say those, because I've been watching him since I was literally a baby. My mother just gave her testimony of this, in which when I was 2, 3, a literal baby, and I was disturbed, nothing would calm me down. We didn't really believe in pacifiers like that, so I didn't have no pacifier, nothing would work. She would sit me down in front of the minister, and I would stop crying. And she had to turn off the TV, because, you know, baby can't watch TV for 3 hours. And I would watch him until she turned him off. Even at the mosque, same thing, just drinking everything in. So in that essence, I would say my mother introduced me to him, of course, but he also nursed me. He also gave me the word. He also fed me. He also taught me. He's been very merciful too, because for half the stuff he says, people in the nation, we've been so critical sometimes. We don't always listen to him. We always struggle, but he doesn't give up on us still. He defends us sometimes more than we defend him. He's motherly in the sense that, like I said, he nurtures us. He's very kind. I can't just give 3 attributes, but I just know from my experience growing up under him, he's been all those things, not even just to me, but to my whole entire family. And that's why I can't really sit by when people say what they have to say about him, because I know it's not true. That's not my experience growing up, hearing him and listening to him.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's dig more into that last part of what you said in regards to why it's so difficult for you just to sit by and not say anything when people make these false allegations against him.
So I joined the Farrakhan Twitter army when I was about 13 years old. And I didn't really do the whole back and forth until I saw the comment section on Twitter. And I was like, so they just gonna say this and we're not gonna say nothing? Like, they're just gonna say XYZ and we don't say anything back. And then I saw that these were not only just random individuals, these were people with blue checks, meaning that they were verified, meaning that they had a following and their account was authentic enough to where Twitter saw it fit that they be verified. So these were people with large audiences saying these things about him, and I saw the impact that had on their followers. A perfect example, when this whole thing, back to the DMX funeral, when what's his name, Damon?
Yeah.
When he said what he said, that, it was a beautiful, speech and everything, people in the comment section, his followers and others were saying, no, he said that Judaism was a gutter religion. So this was not just one person, this was a lot of people who were saying these things. And that's what also influenced him taking it down, because he got attacked by all these people who were saying the exact same thing, but they were all false. So that, which also prompted me to still create other threads and still promote the idea that, one, you're lying, and two, this has been debunked so many times, but how many people actually know that? How many people get inbox or get DM that, hey, actually, this is not true? How many people were told that this is false when all they know is one narrative?
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, I know, like at your university where you are, I know there's a strong effort to be an advocate and a defender of women, which rightly so, against such things as chauvinism, misogyny, and stuff like that. How would you say, if you can elaborate some more, on how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is also a strong advocate, not just even for Black women, but I've heard lectures where he talks about how the womb of all women are sacred. So can you share more on that?
Anti-sexism is part of the ministry. That's always been part of what he teaches. A nation can rise no higher than its woman. Heaven lies at the foot of mother. There's no such thing as a no good woman. Every no good woman was made no good by a no good man. All these things are repetitive because that's part of the ministry. Sexism is one of the impediments to our human development, to self-improvement. Sexism is one of the impediments. So racism also, materialism, sure, but sexism is one too. But I didn't get that, from out the sky. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught that and teaches that. And that's always been, it's consistent and never changed. And so it only just made sense that these teachings and what I've learned in school and outside of school all went together, because I don't follow a sexist man. We don't follow a sexist man. Now there's people who claim to follow him and might, do those things, but he didn't get that from him. He's always been an advocate and defender of women. As long, and I've watched so many tapes in which he's always defended women, and he's always been there for women. So I want that to be known, and I want to push that, especially if we're talking about getting people into a religion that people have said is not for women. And so here comes a man who keeps reminding us and dispelling the myth that women can't lead, that women can't be in the ministry, and a lot of these women come from backgrounds who don't know much about Islam. They're coming from backgrounds where teaching in the church was forbidden for them. So here comes someone who says, actually, no, she can teach. The minister said once in a couple Savior's Day lectures that women, we can bring you your Savior, but we can't represent him. He asked that question, and the women's responses were, of course, they were clapping, they were excited and passionate because they've always been told they can't do something. And the minister said, no, you can do anything that Allah wants you to do. The only thing that he forbids you to do is that which degrades you.
Beautiful, beautiful response. And as we're getting ready to close, we have a couple of more minutes. Can you share what words of encouragement can you give to the youth of the Nation of Islam? As we heard from the clip of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, when he was asked, he said that he hurried up to get dressed because he saw the importance of that group, of that segment of our community. He wanted to share some words of guidance. What encouragement would you give to any of the young brothers and sisters who are watching this, who are members of the Nation of Islam?
Keep going, study, and understand that being young is so important, even from a scriptural standpoint. You know, Jesus talking with the wise men and learning the language and doing all these amazing things at 12 years old. You know, David being really, really young. All these prophets and messengers, they were really babies. You know, Jesus died at 36, some say 33. That's very young. That's not ancient. Like, he's a very young person. Being a young person shouldn't be in your vocabulary. Inshallah should be, but should not. You know, a lot of times people underestimate us and we underestimate ourselves, sometimes because of age, sometimes because of experience or lack thereof, but we shouldn't do that to ourselves, you know.
Beautiful, because as you can bear witness with the civil rights movement, you know, when people think about Dr. King and a lot of these leaders that are held up, some people think like because it was so long ago, they think that they were older, but these were very young individuals with the Fred Hampton Jr.'s, Malcolm, all of these are like very young individuals. So as we get ready to close, was there anything that you may have wanted to share that you didn't have the opportunity to share because maybe I didn't ask the right question? If so, here's your opportunity now.
I think you asked all the right questions, honestly. I'm just grateful to be here and just thankful to being on this magnificent platform.
Yes, ma'am. And we will close. That's he said, let's get your information. So how can people order where can they go to support you as it relates to your artistic endeavors and even follow you on social media? So in terms of my art, you can follow me,
myartpal.com / Queen Nzinga. Also, in terms of my Instagram, it's Queen_Nzinga. On Twitter, it's the Queen Nzinga. Got it. So make sure those of you all who are watching this show, go and check out our sister's work. Go and see the dynamic artistic creation artwork that she has, especially of Black women. And she talked about why she uses some of the colors and what she's conveying, which is very, very significant and very, very important. Thank you, sister, for your responses. Thank you for your participation. Continue to keep defending the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because I'll tell you for sure, this is something that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan desires, to see us defend him. He only asks that we do it with integrity, we do it in decency, and we do it in love. So thank you for your defense. We thank your mother and your father who are on, and we thank the believers there in Rochester, New York as well. Our brother, student minister Kenneth Muhammad, who's running for a political position. Thank you all, and may God continue to bless you, my sister. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. And for those of you all who are watching, once again, we thank you all for tuning in. As I said, this month, we're going to be highlighting some of our younger brothers and sisters in the Nation of Islam that'll be talking about their experiences with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We ask, as always, when we see our weekly announcements, that you continue to support our effort here in the city of New Orleans to pay off our mosque mortgage. We will greatly appreciate that. You can go through some of the previous broadcasts and we'll post it on our social media where you can actually see the actual flyer and everything. But thank you. This is your brother Willie Muhammad. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the NNV News Network. We'll be discussing some very good topics. Peace.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.